and that ought to be in there. He'll say more money for food stamps. Yes, 10 times as much as Obama wants. He'll say more money for unemployment benefits, 52 weeks, 104 weeks. Yes, 10 times as much as Obama wants. And then he'll say green jobs and green energy. No. Then he'll say community development block grants for Acorn. No. So that you get in there and actually grapple with these problems rather than retreating into some ivory tower of a world that has not existed and certainly does not exist now. You've got to get in there and be able to fight, point by point, as Obama says, right? He's got a woman called Killefer. I suppose she's going to be Madame Killjoy or Madame Killer. Killefer is the performance officer of the administration. And we can avoid all the obvious jokes about that. But the performance officer is that she's supposed to go through the federal budget line by line and find out the things that are not necessary. So she's going to be the new cap the knife, right? The new austerity czar and budget deficit hawk. And the kind of thing that somebody like this is going to do to Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and to all the other, remnants that we have of our tattered social safety net. This is going to be an absolute tragedy. But again, you've got to be able to get in there and fight point by point. You've got to get in there and grapple. And I hope that people will join in that, right? You can see some ideas for it are at actindependent.org website.
Well, going back to you talking about left cover and how we're going to, have this possible conscription, don't you think that he's still using just a little bit of the right cover with the war on terror? I mean, first of all, Bush in his, maybe not in his farewell speech, but his last media appearance, he said that his number one thing was keeping America safe from another terrorist attack.
Right.
That'll be the number one thing for the Obama administration. And the Obama administration is already talking about really a redistribution of force from Iraq. Of course, we're de-escalating there, but he says he's going to put them into Afghanistan. So right. I see them creating the same quagmire there.
The only place in the world that they still talk about Bin Laden, Al Qaeda, is this area where Obama and Biden claim that Bin Laden lives. Remember, that was the line in Obama's convention speech. Was Bush says he'll go to the end of the earth to get Osama bin Laden, but he won't go to the cave where he lives. Meaning, let's invade Pakistan. Now, other than that, you're not going to see, I don't think, I doubt they're going to claim that bin Laden is now living in Sudan or Burma or Venezuela or China or Russia, for that matter. The geography and locus of confrontation has shifted. Mm-hmm. They're going to go after Pakistan with the goal of dividing it up, right? Remember, it's Baluchistan, Pashtunistan, Waziristan, Sindh, Punjab, tribal areas. The idea is to shatter it into mini-states, right? Mini-states, micro-states, regionalism. And the general model is they're against big government. They don't like big government. The government in Islamabad is big government. They don't like it. They want to have mini-states, and above that, the empire. That's the new model. And they have India now as a relatively willing spear point against that until somebody in India does something about it. But if you look at the past 6 months, Brzezinski and company have already been dictating policy. In other words, Bush and Cheney left power long ago. They have not been calling the shots for at least a year. And what has happened, of course, is Georgia attacks Russia. Straight Brzezinski-Soros foreign policy. Ukraine has just cut the gas deliveries from Russia to Europe, which I'd been predicting for 4 or 5 months, since August at least, mm-hmm. that there would be a natural gas crisis created by these NATO IMF puppets in Kiev, the Yushchenko regime. So they're trying to gin that up. And then behind that, remember, is the Polish missile crisis. And again, that's supposedly got to do with Iran. But I think you're going to see that the 9/11 stuff gets to be less and less relevant for all areas other than Pakistan, which of course is important, and you're going to get more into this area of great power rivalry. And I think the great danger is, of course, that there'll be some new false flag that will essentially change the subject. In other words, it will be, Bin Laden has joined the KGB, or Bin Laden has joined the Beijing secret police or something, and now he's operating for them, right? Mm-hmm. Some form of this legion of super villains or something like this, and then try to use that. But the main idea is that you can't muck around in the Middle East. Again, the fact that there has been no attack on Iran. Notice, Biden went to the Israelis and said, guess what, Israelis? There's going to be a nuclear Iran, and you're going to like it, and you're going to do nothing. Mm-hmm. Now, the caller that you had at the beginning of the hour wants to know about Gaza, of course. It's an orgy of genocide by the Israelis, and it has to be stopped. The one person who could stop it is Obama. Obama could simply make a statement, I call on the Israeli government to stop what they're doing. At that point, the Israeli government would probably collapse and the operation would cease. Notice he doesn't do this. The reason is that the attack on Gaza is a kind of a consolation prize for people like Zippy Livni and Ehud Barak, who want to be the successors of Olmert. They want to compete with Netanyahu as warmongers. So they've been given this opportunity. They're told, go in and kill 1,000 or 2,000 people, and then you can run on that, and you can compete with Netanyahu, because you're not going to be allowed to attack Iran. And it's a constant flow of news stories that the Israelis were pressing and asking, and the answer kept being no, 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 and that came from Gates, it came from Mullen, and it came from the U.S. administration in general, because the U.S. and the British just don't want this. They want to look at Pakistan, and again, Pakistan is an energy corridor. Pakistan is the way that Iranian oil could go overland to China. Pakistan is a way that tankers could unload at the port of Gwadar and send oil up to Pakistan all the way into China above the Himalayas, above Kashmir and so forth. So it's an energy corridor. Pakistan has got to be destroyed, not because of Pakistan, but because it's an ally of China, and we're now in the area of Russia, China, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. That's the new enemies list. So generally speaking, kick the Chinese out of Africa, attack Sudan to cut off the oil from there, attack Zimbabwe somehow to prevent the Chinese from getting minerals from there, attack anybody in Africa who's dealing with the Chinese, attack Pakistan, attack Burma. These are all Chinese allies, and then ultimately try to play China against Russia. So this is the perspective that they have, and they will need to evolve the ideology, because you can't come forward sounding like Bush Cheney neocons. You've got to sound like something new. Generally speaking, I think they'll talk much more about human rights and genocide, Darfur, Burma, places like this. I think that's the wave of the future.
All right, let's take some callers in the last 15 minutes of the show. Let's try to keep it on topic. And for Webster Tarpley, let us go to Matt in Ohio. Matt, what's on your mind?
Hi, Jason. Thanks for taking my call. And hi, Mr. Tarpley.
Hello.
I had my first question was, do you have which one of your books discusses gives some groundwork for your economic plans?
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's called Surviving the Cataclysm. And the second edition will come out from Progressive Press of California within a month or two, or something like that. We meant to do this a year ago, but then along came Obama, and I had to shift into overdrive to try to warn people about Obama, right? 2 books in about 5 or 6 months. But there is a second edition now that's practically in the press of Surviving the Cataclysm. You can send an email to info@progressivepress.com and get on the list and be informed of this. Or I think you'll probably even sell you an electronic version, which is going to be a little bit messy, but it may be the thing. And that was the basic story there. That was written about 10 years ago, and it talks about deindustrialization and the derivatives bubble as leading towards a world economic depression of unprecedented severity, and that's where we are now. So that was 10 years before.
Okay, the reason why I ask is because I'm pretty much a free markets adherent, and I've heard you talk about you're on another radio program about a week or two ago, and
right.
You don't seem to really think the free market would work in this situation. So I just kind of wanted to get some of your. Fortunately, I haven't drinking enough fluoride to not be willing to question my assumptions. So I wanted to get some. Just some groundwork, just to relook at that analysis.
Well, definitely check it out, because Webster, again, you put it out there 10 years ago, and right now, 10 years later, is when a second edition is warranted. And I'm sure would you add a couple chapters, basically?
Yeah, sure. There's a new economic program. There's a new analysis of helicopter Ben Bernanke. There's a new analysis of the TARP. How to nationalize the Federal Reserve if you don't have the political power to nationalize it all at once. Nationalize the Fed by stages, and they would seize parts of it and fight from there, and then use those parts to overcome the other parts. The thing about free market is that this is a myth. This does not exist. The 19th century generally knew that the subject you're talking about is political economy. In other words, it's